Parenting. Talk about going the distance. I'm the parent of 4 children that are living. I lost a child. All 5 of my children were preemies. The last 2 were 10 months apart. The baby was born at 27 weeks, count that back from 40, and she weighed 2 pounds 6 ounces. She lost down to 1 pound 6 ounces, this little teeny tiny thing. Well, we were living in Pennsylvania, and she was in the hospital at Sinai in Baltimore. And traveling the roads back and forth every day, I had to really depend on friends to take care of my other children while I was going back and forth to the hospital. It was hard. I would have to leave my kids to go be with my kid, to leave my kid to go be with my kids. And just that traveling every day really took a toll on me. One morning I got all the kids packed in the car and I took them to a friend's house. And they were all excited because 4 or 5 families were getting together that day, and they were going to have a picnic, a cookout, and everybody play together. So as I pulled away, I waved, and of course they didn't notice at all because they were already playing with their friends. So I'm driving down the road when I get to the hospital. This is about 7 weeks after she was born. Get to the hospital, and I go through my usual routine. I get her up with this little thing, and I changed her diaper, and I nursed her. And then I gave her a bath in the little butter bowl they give you. It's about this big. Dried her off, and I put her in these little tiny doll clothes that I had made that literally were like this big, and dressed her up and wrapped her in a blanket and had her all warm. And I saw the doctors and nurses coming across the room with these balloons. And I was like, what's going on here? Well, the doctor came up and he said to me, well, we got these balloons because we thought you might want to have a party when you get home if you want to take Lethe home with you today. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I'll take her home. I wasn't expecting this because she was still pretty small. She was under 4 pounds. And I was so excited, and they said, well, it's going to take us some while. We need to do the paperwork and run some more blood work, so, get some rest, and, we'll let you know when we're ready. So I'm rocking the baby, getting ready to lay her down for a nap, and a nurse comes over to me and she says, you've got a phone call at the nursing station, Miss Edmondson. So I go and, it's my friend, and she says, Sarah was just hit by a car. She's in an ambulance on her way to Greater Baltimore Hospital. And I hit the floor. Boom. How can you go from this high to that low in 10 seconds? It was incredible. I could barely stand. I couldn't get myself together. I have to get to the hospital, and the nurses and one of the other parents actually got me together and drove me across town to Greater Baltimore Hospital. And as I was going in, I saw them bringing this 10-month-old, well, she was 11 and a half months old at the time, bringing her on the stretcher, this little tiny thing, blood all down her face and her arm and the side of her body. You could actually see the tire tread on the side of her face. They were wheeling her to get the x-rays and do a CAT scan and do all these things to make sure she was okay. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? How did this happen? And the story was the children were all playing on the swing set at the bottom of the driveway. There was about 7 or 8 kids playing on the swing set, and the moms were standing around talking. And Sarah, the baby, was in a stroller, sitting in the driveway. Well, there was a car parked at the top of the hill, and the emergency brake gave out. And the car comes down the hill, going right toward the swing set with 8 kids on it. And the only thing between the swing set and the car was my baby. And her head chopped the tire of the car, pulled it to a stop. Her body was pulled across the gravel, and the children on the swing set were safe. They had to push the car back. They called the ambulance, and that's when they called me. I was just totally floored. How could this have happened? Well, I'm sitting there with the baby, and they getting the results of the test back, and the doctors finally come up and say, we don't detect any internal injuries at all. There's no broken bones, there's no damage to her skull, nothing at all. And they cleaned up the the marks on her body and got all the stones and stuff out of her skin and out of her face. And they said, we're going to keep her overnight for observation. And I said, well, my other baby is across town at Sinai waiting for me to take her home. Because at this point in time, I hadn't told my family that she was ready to come home. They called, and for some reason I don't understand, the insurance company okayed an ambulance to take us from GBMC to Sinai Hospital. Unheard of. Then Sinai had a room set up for us with 2 bassinets, 2 beds for the babies, and we sat there overnight and just praying, please let everything be okay. In the morning, the doctors came in, they ran some more tests and checked everything out, and finally one of the doctors came in and he said, we don't understand. You're telling us this accident happened yesterday afternoon. This child's healing looks like it's been at least 2 weeks since the accident. The bruising and everything that had occurred had just gone so fast. And they said, you can take your babies home. That distance driving from Maryland to Pennsylvania was the longest distance getting home that day and the sweetest ride I've ever taken.